All right, welcome everybody. We will call the Belvedere City Council regular meeting of June 20th, 2022 to order. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Brereton.
Here.
Fleury.
Here.
Frank. Here. Freeman.
Here.
McGee. McGee is absent. Mulhall.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Prather.
Here.
Snow.
Here.
Stevens.
Here.
9 present.
Okay, if you'll stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Lord, we pray to thank you for our country, our community, and our freedom. We thank you for all of our military members currently serving and the many veterans who have served our great nation. We recognize that without them, we would not have the freedoms we enjoy today, and we thank you for these heroes and for their service and sacrifice. We ask you bless them, each and every one of them. We also pray to thank you for our police and first responders in our community and throughout this country and pray for their safety. We ask that you give us the wisdom, compassion, patience, and courage as we conduct our city's business here this evening. We ask for these things in Christ's name. Amen. Do we have? Okay, under public comment, I don't believe we have any registered. We have no public comment this evening. Under approval of minutes, item 4, we have the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Belvedere City Council of June 6, 2022 as presented. Could I have a motion to that effect, please? Motion by Alderwoman Prather, second by Alderman Stevens. Any questions or corrections on those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Item 5, we have no public hearing. Under special messages and proclamations, I do have a proclamation tonight, and it's recognizing Mr. Melvin Brown. I would ask Melvin if he would come up here and join me. No, he can come up. Yes.
Oh, good heavens.
Come on in here and sit right next to Alderman Byrd, and he doesn't bite. Mel, you can sit. Just
I think I want to stand.
you can stand if you like.
No.
All right.
I may sit formed on, but
All right. Well, we're here tonight to recognize Melvin Brown, who most of us know as Mel, for his outstanding contributions to our community since 1957. However, before I do that, I want to recognize Mel's wife, Patricia, Trish, who passed away in 2018 after 66 years of marriage to Mel. I knew her, and I know she would be proud this evening to see Mel honored. I also want to welcome Mel's family and his friends here this evening, his son Darren, Darren's wife Stacy, his granddaughters Claire, Caitlin, and Grace, his great-granddaughter Lucy, grandsons Kyler, Reese, and Peyton, and longtime friends and co-workers that are here tonight as well. Thank you all for coming. When I told Mel that I wanted to recognize him at our city council, he was a little bit reluctant. And he wanted me to know that he didn't want this to be just about Mel Brown, but about all the good people and help he had along the way. I know Mel, and I know that he always has been about teamwork and education and in our community. And I greatly appreciate him coming here this evening. I also know you won't find a humbler person than Mel, but since I'm mayor, this is our way to honor Mel, and I'll continue with his list of accomplishments, so bear with me, Mel.
okay. That's enough.
It's my honor tonight to recognize Mel for his outstanding contributions to our country and our community, and his accomplishments go like this. Graduate of Eastern Illinois University in 1952. He married his wife Trish in 1952. He served our country in 1952 in the Korean War. Upon his discharge in 1954, Mel began his career in education in Alvin, Illinois. Mel and Trish then moved to Belvedere in 1957, teaching at Belvedere Junior High School. Mel was promoted to assistant principal at Washington Elementary School in 1963, and again promoted to District 100 Assistant Superintendent of Schools in 1965. Mel was chosen as Belvedere School District 100 Superintendent in 1967, just 2 weeks before the deadly Belvedere tornado that struck our community and our new Belvedere High School. He served as our school superintendent until retiring in 1988 after a 22-year career and a commitment here, something which is really unheard of today. A short time later, actually Mel was chosen, I first met Mel at the YMCA in 1972. I'd moved to this community as a youngster. And then a short time later, Mel and what I called his old timers could be found at the YMCA over lunch hour playing basketball. Mel was in his 40s then and played well into his 50s, and I was always amazed that he could outrun, out-hustle, out-ball handle, and out-compete us kids. It was both amazing and frustrating. Quite frankly, for a long time, I wasn't even aware that Mel was our school superintendent. He was a friend of mine from the YMCA until high school. And then I knew who he was. Yes, I would have never known it, though, by how Mel treated kids and everyone else he came into contact with. He was always professional, approachable, friendly, kind. Mel had these attributes that all added up to his unique leadership quality that attracted people to follow him and work with him in whatever he chose to do. Whatever accomplishments he hoped to obtain, he had people pulling with him in the right direction. Those qualities are exactly why he was so respected and what made great schools work here in Belvedere. As well, for decades you would see Mel at so many high school sporting events, always coming out to support student athletics. His commitment to our high school athletics is why BHS Gymnasium is named so appropriately in his honor. All of these things are what made Mel Brown. However, most of all, Mel Brown truly cared about children and about this community. The more you knew him, the more you understood that and appreciated it. I wanted to recognize Mel because of his incredible contribution to education, children, to our community for the past 70 years, and his strong, steady leadership as school superintendent spanning here 22 years. As well, for decades, Mel donated his time to our Rotary Club, our YMCA, and many other local organizations. He was very selfless with his time. Before I read Mel's proclamation, I see there's some individuals here in the audience that have known Mel longer than I am, because I know Kurt Tobin was one of those old guys that I used to talk about up at the Y. So he played up there as well. So I see Kurt here, and perhaps there's several others. But at this time, if you wanted to come up and say a few words, I'd certainly give you the opportunity.
Here comes my counsel.
We won't tell any of the stories you
Don't
think
tell
we're going to
them
tell,
about
no.
Go into executive session.
Well, thank you, Mayor Morris, members of the council. This is so cool. And first time I've been before the council that I haven't had a suit and tie on, so I do feel a little out. But so Darren and your whole family and extended family, congratulations. And Mel was a rock. this community owes him a great debt. And he went through some times, about the time he was just getting settled, Chrysler Corporation came in, and it used to be the farmers were in outside town, and the only houses, you were either farm or city, and all of a sudden they started building houses outside of town, and there was annexations and so forth, and this went from a really neat small Middle West town in the late 50s to a pretty rambunctious town. And on top of everything else, he got started as it was pointed out. You got started as superintendent with a couple of problems. One was the Belvedere tornado.
Yeah, tornado.
Yeah, right.
2
So,
weeks.
but Mel was a rock. He was liked by everybody because he was so humble. If he didn't know the answer to something, he went out and talked to people, found out maybe what was best for the district, and then went ahead and did it. And as long as he felt he was doing things properly for the School District 100 and its students, he could go home and sleep. I don't know if you probably had a few sleepless nights, but nevertheless, he could go home and sleep. And everybody that worked for him, and I had an opportunity for 40 years to be counsel to the district, so we had a lot of interesting stuff going on. But everybody that worked for him, I remember his secretary had a stroke.
Yes, she
And
did.
really, and came back, and things were pretty sketchy. And I think at some point she told Melvin, "Look, I can't do this for you anymore. I can't type very well," and so forth. And Mel said, "Oh, you're not leaving. You're not leaving. We're going to fight through this thing together,
That's
right?"
right, we did.
Yes,
too.
you did. And that was just one of many things that showed you his personality. He was calm. He never had an ego. Everybody got their say, and whether or not in the final analysis everybody agreed with him, they respected him. And whether it was building and ground superintendent, or a rookie teacher, or somebody who had been teaching at the district 30 years and thought they knew more than the superintendent, he gave everybody a shot, and then he made a decision. So he certainly, my good friend, and I'm not going to bore the council with all the details, Melvin, but
thank you very much.
you are. This is a
Yeah.
cool night for a cool guy.
Yes, I'm humbled by it all, too, I'll tell you that.
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
If there's, yes,
Picture.
oh, sure.
What
Well,
happened?
we have time because, no, we have time right now. Yeah,
What we gonna do?
wherever you want to, right here.
Oh. I guess I better turn around then.
Thank you. I went to Eastern too.
Okay. I would offer to anyone else who, if they wanted to come up and say a few words, certainly I would offer the microphone to them. It's up to them. Oh, good, wonderful.
I don't know about this. Do a good job.
Hi, everyone. My name is Claire Brown. I'm Mel's granddaughter, and this is my sister, Grace.
Hi.
Our grandpa has been such an influential person in our lives, and we didn't get the pleasure to know him in school. That's probably good for us. But he has taught us so many values that we will just be so thankful for our whole lives. Just his generosity, him and my grandmother, and their selflessness, which I think is, the resounding theme tonight. So we are so thankful for him, and just incredibly honored that you guys have chosen to honor him in this way.
Yeah. One thing is that my grandpa has given his entire life to help the people that he loves and, give back to his community. And, I think remembering him for that is all he's ever wanted. So this is really special tonight, and thank you guys so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Almost made me cry.
Wanted to read this proclamation that we have to present to Mel this evening. And it's from the City of Belvedere, and a proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Melvin Brown graduated from Oakland High School in 1949 and received his bachelor's degree from Eastern Illinois University in 1952, and whereas Melvin Brown married Patricia Brown on August 25th, 1952, and enjoyed 66 years of marriage with Patricia until her passing in 2018. And whereas Melvin Brown was drafted into the Army on September 2nd, 1952, during the Korean War, and served at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, where he oversaw the new recruitment education program. And whereas Melvin Brown was honorably discharged from the Army in 1954 and began his first classroom teaching job in Elvin, Illinois. And whereas Melvin Brown moved to Belvedere, Illinois in 1957 to continue his teaching career at Belvedere Junior High School, and whereas Melvin Brown grew in his career as becoming the assistant principal in Washington Elementary School in 1963, then to become the assistant superintendent for District 100 in 1965, and whereas Melvin Brown then became superintendent for District 100 in 1967, 2 weeks before one of the deadliest tornadoes in Illinois devastated our schools and community. And whereas Melvin Brown accomplished great things as District 100 superintendent, equipped all school buses with two-way radio systems for life-saving communications, assisted in bringing great programs into the district like vocational, automotive, and special education services. And where Melvin Brown retired in 1988 after 22 years as District 100 superintendent, concluding a 35-year career in education. And whereas Melvin Brown dedicated his time and commitment to the Belvedere community, serving as a volunteer for decades to our Rotary Club, the YMCA, and many other local organizations. And whereas Melvin Brown is enjoying his retirement by spending it with his grandchildren, with his 5 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren, and now therefore I, Clinton Morris, Mayor Belvedere, do hereby recognize Melvin Brown for his dedication and caring for the youth, his passionate leadership towards providing quality education for all children, and his unique ability to encourage others to work with him in making Belvedere School District 100 the quality standard in education and the Belvedere community a better place to live. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause a seal of the Belvedere, City of Belvedere, to be affixed this 20th day of June 2022. So I want to thank you, Mel. I want to give you this. I'll leave it up here because I was hoping I could get you to say a few words. I'm honored that you would come here,
Well, thank you very much. I am honored to be here.
and I will let you step up to the
Okay.
microphone, Mel, and you can use this right here.
That'll be great. I'll just work my way over
You
here,
bet.
and keep from falling, and I'll be okay. Well, this information that he shared with you, I think, covers most of the things you need to know about me. But there are several things I'd like to share with you about Belvedere. And my brother was a superintendent at Capron for a number of years, and I was still in college. And he invited me to come up on occasion to visit him in Capron. Well, my wife and I decided, well, let's go take a look and see. And so we drove up here, and I drove down. Listen, I don't know what street it was because they never run in the east, west, or north-south direction, but they call it North State, but I'm not going north when I travel it. But anyway, that was a complete canopy of elm trees, beautiful elm trees, all the way down to almost the corner of 76. It was a beautiful sight. Well, the elm disease came along and took care of that, of course, and as a result of that, I decided that what we really needed to do was to just take a position that, well, I guess we won't ever come to Belvedere. We weren't that impressed with it at the time. So I served my time in Korea and all that stuff, the Korean War, and came back and I had a call from the superintendent in Belvedere. And I thought, well, Belvedere, I know where that is. Well, he offered me a contract sight unseen to come and teach. Well, I got to remember that was a shortage of teachers, so he didn't have to worry much about getting somebody. So we came up here, and I spent the next 33 or so years working with the community. And the thing I found most interesting about this community was it was not a sleeping community at all. It was just a marvelous giant ready to wake up to provide opportunities for people in this area. And I saw faces that I had in school that are serving in many capacities already in their young adult life to make this a better place to live too. Population sign out on that direction was 7,000 when we came up here to live. And now I think it's 25,000 or so. And this is all a direct result of the cooperation I've had from the public, from the city, from North Boone School Districts, from the college in Rockford, from the Rockford Public Schools, because we form many educational opportunities for children in all of these areas when we were working together. So I am strictly humbled by this honor. It is an honor as far as I am concerned. I hope and pray that I'm worthy of the recognition you've shared with me, but I have decided that I've stayed here this long. My wife and I are both going to stay here forever because we have a parking place here in Belvedere, and we're going to remain here. That's how much we love the town. And thank you very much for all of your assistance. I think there's faces in here I should recognize, but names I can't put on them anymore. So thank you very much, and Your Honor, I am grateful for your assistance in all of this too. And thanks again.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you very much. Oh,
I got it ready to
you got
go.
it? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Margaret. Nice to see you.
This is Frank.
Oh, heaven, yeah. Good to see you guys. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Thank you very much. Again, my wife. Okay, God bless you. God bless you. Okay, I'm down.
You gonna grade me, Mel? Oh. This is worse. This is going to the superintendent's office. All right, we also have under item 6, Pam Lopez Fettis with Growth Dimensions. Pam, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Okay, good evening. That's a tough act to follow, and I think as an organization, Growth Dimensions aspires to be like men, like Melvin Brown, to do things in his lifetime that make a difference, not only for at the time, but for the future and for years to come. So, you know, as an organization and as individuals, I think we all strive to be like that. Thank you. There's a few things I just need to update the council on. We have been working on a number of projects. Right now, we have 68 open projects. 30 have been in 2022, and 44 of those have been industrial. We have wanted to highlight Project Yukon, which is a retail slash e-commerce company that is interested in 3 locations potentially in Belvedere. They're also looking at some competing outside of Belvedere, but we are on the short list. And I just heard today that they're looking at 2,000 jobs for those particular positions. So it would be one of the largest distribution centers, even larger than Project Kelly, which is General Mills. And we continue to work with projects like General Mills, working with the departments here on grants, as well as working with enterprise zones and working with the contractors to make sure that everything's aligned with the enterprise zone program. And then we're also scheduling, working with them to schedule a groundbreaking, which will happen at the end of August, early September. We're still trying to find a date. We're also working with a number of other businesses. We've had 137 business calls since the beginning of this year. 66 are new calls and 71 returning calls for businesses. We are working with the City of Belvedere on the grant with the Kauffman Foundation in order to help businesses grow in our community. One of the work that we're doing, where we just brought on a translator that'll help the city and Growth Dimensions with translating some materials for all the businesses to understand. We're also working with the Small Business Development Center on providing training to businesses. And we're working with the health department to develop videos on, like, a Food 101 video in English and Spanish that will be available on our sites. We want to make sure that information for businesses are at their fingertips and help them sustain and grow. And we're working also with the state and trying to identify what those grants are in the pipeline. And once those become available, we'll distribute them. Because we do have a number of restaurants and small businesses that are still suffering, especially with the workforce issues that we're having today. We have worked over the past year with the school district on internship programs. And we've had internships, let me see, we've had 33 businesses that we connected for internships. We had 4 businesses that committed, and we had about 6 students that actually participated in an internship program. We are working with the Illinois Manufacturing Association in partnership with the school district to create 10 internships over the next 2 years. It's a small grant, but this will help us connect again, manufacturing with students and, career opportunities, not only, during school, but once they complete. We also celebrated Crusader Clinic, who had their groundbreaking not too long ago. Thank you for everyone who participated. This was on the June 9th. They expanded their facility 3,000 square feet, and they renovated 1,000 square feet of their facility. They are also going to be adding providers to this clinic and parking spaces, as well as new lab space and other opportunities. So this will be great for our community in expanding not only our businesses, but our service providers and our access to services. Any questions?
Any questions for Pam? Okay, thank you, Pam.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too, thank you. All right, I will call on Gina just briefly to remind, everybody that about Heritage Days upcoming, and if she would mind giving a little bit of an update. Mr. Brown is going to be the Grand Marshal in the parade on Sunday, so.
Yes, he is.
as
I'm
well.
very excited for him to lead the parade. So right now, I am just stalking the weather. It's going to be hot, slight chance of rain. It'll probably change 100 times by this weekend. But a quick recap of the schedule. Friday night starts off with the carnival, laser light show, DJ, and foam party. So we will be filling up the community building parking lot with foam and letting kids run through it. And last year it was amazing. It was so fun to watch them. And carnival has a cost, but the laser light show, DJ, and foam party is completely free. So it's a great way to cool off and have some fun. Saturday we start off with a 5K. Paint on State is back. They're changing it around a little bit depending on how much squares and paint you want. They're kind of letting you do bulk purchases. And then there's the car show. One thing that's new is the Jeep Jam and Bronco Bash. Since there are so many Jeeps in this community, we separated them from the car show so that it wouldn't overtake it. So we're basically going to have 2 car shows. There's going to be a dunk tank. There's going to be a cool-off station for pets. And Bob's Belvedere Over Blessings is having a cool-off station for adults. So, which is great because it is going to be hot. So we'll have a rest tent with free water and stuff. So if you're out enjoying the activities and you're starting to, the heat's getting to you, stop by the museum and enjoy their rest tent. We're going to have food trucks, craft vendors, the Duck Derby, Belvedere Theater Group is supposed to be doing a little skit. So all kinds of things. And again, all of that is free to come and enjoy. That seems to be the main question I'm getting on Facebook is how much is it to park? How much is it to get in? And I just want, thanks to our sponsor, especially UW Health and Scannell, who really outdid themselves on sponsorships this year. No charge to park. Everything's free to get in. There is a cost to enter the car show, and there is a cost for paint materials, which are minimal, but everything else is free. And even if you just want to walk around and enjoy, that's free. T-shirts did go up to $10. I think that's going to be the biggest shock to people. And at that cost, we're pretty much breaking even. I did my best to shop, but it is what it is. And then Saturday night, we have a band playing. So Sandy at Buchanan has a band, and the one hers is done. We'll have another band. Talked to them tonight and confirmed everything with them. So that'll be great. Again, that's completely free. So, and then Sunday is the parade, and we're going to have a special kickoff to the parade, weather permitting, so everyone will just have to come and see it for themselves. And then the fairgrounds will have bounce houses again, another free band, and again, it's free to park at the fairgrounds, it's free to enter the fairgrounds, the band and the bounce houses are free. And then there's some other community partners that are taking advantage of the weekend foot traffic. The Apollo has a concert, the Funderburg House is going to be open for tours and cocktail hour. The museum is having extended hours. There's also going to be a lecture on Saturday while they open up their art gallery. We'll also have craft vendors and food trucks over there as well. There is a city versus county blood drive, so everyone donate this week and vote for the city because, let's face it, we can't lose to the county. So really, I think that's it. We're going to be building our float this week, and yeah, it's just going to be a good weekend. Hopefully tons of people downtown to support our local businesses and everyone that's, just working their butt off this week to get it done.
Okay. Well, thank you, Gina. I appreciate all your hard work and your help with that. Any questions for Gina? Alderman Porter.
Are there going to be fireworks this year?
Yes, Sunday night at the fairgrounds.
Okay, one other question, just quickly. Is the Funderburg House, is that handicap accessible, do you know?
It is. They have a lift on the side, so not the main front that faces the street, but the side that faces the garage. There is a lift that was installed to make it ADA compliant.
Thank you. Any, Alderwoman Prather.
Gina, I was wondering if you could just confirm for me. I had heard a rumor that our very own Alderman Snow and Chief Shadle were going to be in that dunk tank, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe I have a message about that. Hold on.
Perhaps if we could maybe let everyone know those time slots.
Well, Gina,
apparently that maybe isn't an email and not a message, but I do believe it is Alderman Snow, Chief Chadle, Dana Revelo. I think there's 5 total, right?
I thought I heard
Yunkin Wadsworth, yes. So there's gonna be lots of people you're gonna wanna dunk, so stop by. That's gonna be on the corner of Pleasant and State Street. So dunking all day long, can't beat that. And there's also gonna be a Meet the Mayor at the Rest Tent from 12 to 1. So everyone's favorite elected officials or community servants will be around somewhere to talk to or dunk.
Alderman Snow.
I want to give a big thank you for Gina for doing this. I know it's a huge thing, and doing those T-shirts as well, tie-dyeing them and everything. Thank you.
I still have that.
Yeah, Gina does a good job, that's for sure. Thank you, Gina. Appreciate it. All right, I kind of caught you off guard a little bit, but thank you. Item 7, approval of expenditures, general and special fund expenditures in the amount of $1,476,266.80. Could I get a motion to that effect, please? Motion by Alderman Snow, second by Alderman Stevens. Any questions regarding the general and special funds? Hearing none, all those in favor will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay, as the clerk calls the roll.
Brereton,
Aye.
Flurry,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Mulhall,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Prather,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
9 in favor.
Motion passed, thank you. And then we also have water and sewer fund expenditures in the amount of $454,049.29. Could I have a motion to that effect, please? Motion by Alderman Fleury, second by Alderwoman Mulhall. Any discussion regarding that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor will say aye. Any opposed, nay, as the clerk calls the roll, please.
Flurry,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Mulhall,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Prather,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
9 in favor.
Motion passed, thank you. And item 8, committee reports and minutes of city officers. For the record, items A through H have been placed on file. We have item I, minutes of the Committee of the Whole, Building, Planning, Zoning, and Public Works of June 13th, 2022. Can I have a motion to approve those, please? Motion by Alderwoman Prather, second by Alderman Porter. Any questions regarding that motion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed, thank you. Item 9, under unfinished business, we have none. Item 10, new business. Item A, we have ordinance number 584H for a first reading. That information from the report from the Building, Planning, Zoning is in your packet. That will come back for a second reading. That is for the old Grandma's Restaurant, which will be the new Dunkin' Donuts. We have item 10B, ordinance 585H for first reading, which is an ordinance granting a special use to allow, granting a special use to allow a mural within the Central Business District, 106 North State Street, and that would be at the Apollo, and that will be back for you at a second reading. We have item C, ordinance 586H for first reading, an ordinance granting a special use to allow indoor commercial entertainment within the Central Business District located at 119 South State Street. That would be the Gomez Restaurant, which was formerly the Bar's Flower Shop. And I don't know if I read item A, ordinance 584H, first reading. I don't know if I read that ordinance. It's an ordinance granting a special use to allow planned development within the general business district located at 320 West Chrysler Drive. Those four will be back. Item E before you this evening is a motion to waive Section 2-88 referral to committees of the City of Belvedere Municipal Code with respect to ordinance 588H and 589H. Have a motion to waive, can we omnibus them together then, 589?
You just did.
Can we? Is that, okay, 588 and 589. Motion by Alderman Snow, second by Alderman Stevens. Any questions regarding the motion to waive both 588H and 589H, which are upcoming? Alderman Snow.
I assume the paperwork got all filed, because that was in question? Thanks.
Shockingly, yes.
Surprisingly. Okay, if there are no other questions, all those in favor will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay. When the clerk calls a roll, please.
Frank?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Mulhall?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Prather?
Aye.
Snow?
Aye.
Stevens?
Aye.
Brereton?
No.
Flurry?
Aye.
8 in favor.
Okay, motion passed. And then we have ordinance 588H for first and second reading, or an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain personal property, the fire department vehicle. That ordinance is in your packet before you. Could I get a motion to that effect, please? Motion by Alderman Snow, second by Alderman Stevens. Any questions regarding that? Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you. So Chief Shadle, last week in your presentation, you said that we have ALS 140, which is a 2003 like old ambulance, so we're probably going to be retiring that soon. And that we would take 160, which is your Ford pickup, 2017, and use $50,000 of the sale of the mini pumper of the 225 to outfit that as an alternate response vehicle, which the mini pumper is an alternate response vehicle. Your Ford pickup just wouldn't have the fire putting out capabilities. So I guess I'm confused how, if we can't man the mini pumper, how are we gonna man the Ford pickup?
So for the past 7, 8, 9 years, what we've done anytime we've had 8 people on duty is that instead of staffing only an engine at Station 2, is that we split our crews 2 and 2, and then we have an alternate response vehicle respond to just medical calls. And then they don't jump or anything, but they're staffed on those vehicles in the morning. So that's something that we've been doing, I want to say, for at least 8 years that we've been doing that, and that we've always continued to do. And so it's just a lower use vehicle. So it is something that's beneficial to have, though, because on those days that we do have the 8 on duty, then we are able to save wear and tear and depreciation and fuel and tires and all those things on the engines by daily errands or medical calls, which is 60% of our calls out of Station 2 and Station 1. So we're able to save some wear and tear on the vehicles and save some money that way. So that's just been how we've been able to be efficient as possible with our manpower in our vehicles. So you're 100% correct. We've always had a grass rig with the ability to suppress grass fires, and we do have a little pump that will go on to 160, but understand it's not a UHP. It's not going to suppress fire like a inch and 3/4 hose would. That would just be for, it's a 4x4 vehicle with the ability to suppress grass fire. So that would still be the case with that, and that's kind of what that has always been. Before that, it was, Clayton, would you remember, in 1972, the truck at Station 2? Yep, and so we've always had a grass rig. And so when we got the 2017 and then we got the ambulance, we just used that ambulance, the ALS /dive vehicle. So yes, to answer your question, if we sold 142, we would spend some of that money, 50,000 being a high side estimate, to outfit that to be an ALS alternate response vehicle, grass rig truck.
Oh, okay, I appreciate that, but I'm a little bit still confused because the mini pumper wasn't ever used, which is the reason why we're selling it, right? So if we, according to Chief Heiser, we needed 10 men to utilize the mini pumper. So being so we only have 8, we don't use it, but then we would be able to use the pickup. It just wouldn't have fire suppression.
That's 100% correct. The reason I proposed the sale of 142 is just the financial constraints that we're in, and knowing that the costs are exploding for the city, and the cost of fuel, and most specifically the cost of the very engine that I'm hoping you guys finalize tonight. That came in about $200,000 above what was anticipated, and I know that the budget is a finite item, and that when you need more money, you have to give something up, and so that was my proposal to council to help ease that situation. But yes, there is a cost to not having that suppression. So yes, 142 is an alternate response vehicle. So we have 9 guys on duty on each shift, and so anytime that only one of them are off duty, then we have 8. So it is true, if there was more manning, there'd be more frequency of times that would be in service, but that is still something that I feel is valuable to the department, to have that alternate response vehicle. If you guys ultimately decide to sell 142, that alternate response vehicle will not have the ability to suppress fire like 142 does. So that would be your consideration. On the other night when I was presented, I wanted to give you guys options to help with the situation that we were in, and so just understand that the cost. So say we sell it for 200, and then 50,000 goes to outfit our other alternate response vehicle. We're coming out $150,000 ahead, and then the question is that savings enough to not have suppression on the alternate response vehicle? And I would be okay with that, because we still have both of our engines, and that's something that we had not had in the past prior to 142, and that's why I thought it would be something that I would recommend to help us to get our need, which our real need is replacing that 2002 LaFrance, and just to help with that situation.
Thank you, Mayor. So I totally understand that the whole purpose of selling the mini pumper is to financially help out with $150,000 of the cost of the new engine, and I appreciate that. But my concern, I guess, is with $50,000 to outfit the pickup. Plus, I know that it's going to be like a little more than $43,000 to outfit the new engine as well, that you said you had money for in a different line item. So we're really, looking at $93,000. And we're getting a Ford pickup that doesn't have fire prevention capabilities. I'm not sure that exchange is worth it. I don't know that really saving $100,000 and giving up and losing money on the mini pumper is really honestly the way to go.
I would love to have both, but I understand that might not be the best option for the community. So that's why I presented both of those to you. 142 can suppress fire. You guys have seen it. I said it last time. It's a great vehicle. It's ready to go. One thing I would just mention, that when you mentioned the cost of that equipment to outfit the other engine, that's kind of a sunk cost. So what we do with 142 is irrelevant, but I'd say really it's a $150,000 question. And I appreciate your perspective on it.
I think what we have to keep in mind is we have to be prudent about what we can really afford. You know, we, as the chief had mentioned, the price of the fire truck has went up exorbitantly. We're talking about from 475, 500,000 to nearly 700,000. And there's no question that I think the chief had mentioned that the mini pumper had made a total calls since it was, 57 or 58 calls, that it really wasn't, was an expensive, by consideration, it was a very expensive piece of equipment if you in fact needed a engine instead. And my belief has always been that you have to put your priorities in place, how you're going to purchase and what you're going to purchase. It gives you the best bang for the buck. Would you like it all? Absolutely. Can you have it all? I don't think so, not in this economy. So I'm asking the council to, be prudent with the money, and also keep in mind that the predominance of our calls are ambulance calls, correct, Chief?
Yes, sir, absolutely. I mean, the majority of calls, the actual fire calls, 60% of those, 60 to 70% are traditionally EMS.
EMS calls. So the vehicle that we have now, the truck, is paid for, correct? The pickup?
Yes, every asset in the fire department is paid for.
Okay. And so that investment that you will have, that truck will be utilized just based upon the calls of service, correct?
When there's 8 or 9, we'll be able to use that. And part of the time, 142 was down for a few months, so that number is historically a little lower. I imagine if I pulled 2020 data and looked at our 140, it would be higher. It would show more calls than 56, but still, so it's a nice supplement to have. But yes, it's not used that often, and then it would only be when there's the extra manpower. And so the other considerations about the low use last year we had a long-term injury, and then this year again we have another long-term injury. Anytime that happens, we're actually just we're short and we're using overtime. So it's exactly the opposite of having extra staffing.
Thank you, Chief. And then from a financial standpoint, the question is, what can we afford? And is it more prudent to pay that expensive engine down, and so that we can utilize that, which we do. That's the purpose that we need a new engine. We have an engine with 20 years and 1 million miles if you count the hours on it. And but this allows us to use some of that money, so we're not taking advantage, we're not spending taxpayer money in an inflated economy that really is probably the worst time to buy something, especially if you have something that you're not utilizing. You can apply to something that's more prudent and more needed. So would you say that's correct, Chief?
I would say it's correct. I do think that that's our best option facing this situation right now is to do that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alderman Fleury?
Thank you. Great. So 140 is, you said, a 2002 vehicle?
So 140, the current 140 is an ambulance. It's a 2003. We still use it. It's going to be an extremely low-use vehicle, as it has we have 2 sets of dive gear. Part of our obligation, if there is a water recovery or to help PD with things in the river and things like that, is to have a couple divers. And so it's going to be a low-use vehicle, so we're still planning on keeping that one on board. It would be a pretty quick transition to make 160 ALS, and it's a newer Ford truck, pretty low on miles, I think under 6,000 miles. So those are those 2 vehicles, but that 03, we don't plan on I don't plan on coming to you anytime soon asking to replace that, as it's going to be a pretty low-use vehicle. It's something that's maintained, it's paid for, and it should last a little while longer.
Thank you. And so my understanding then, if 142 is sold, then that money is just going to go into the general fund. It's not going towards the new engine. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, any income, I mean, every expenditure happens, you guys budget and through appropriations, but anything that comes in, that just comes in, and then that would go into the general fund, and then you guys would then decide how to spend that. So if that does come in, and then I come and ask for money to retrofit 160, I'm hoping that I'll be able to portray the need well enough so that you guys will then balance what's on your plate and the decisions and the money that you have to allocate, and hopefully, but yes, that is a risk that I'd be taking because that is not earmarked.
Right. And just like I said last week, my concern is I appreciate your thinking outside the box of finding ways to try to supplement to pay for this fire engine, but in reality, selling this vehicle isn't paying for the new fire engine. Is going into the general fund. And my concern is just by selling it now, when we do have to replace 103, whether it be 5 years or 10 years down the road, that $100,000 we made is going to be eaten up, because just like with the new fire engine, we were budgeting $500,000, and they're even the most bare bone ones is $669. You know, we're hitting with a higher expense of over $200,000 to try to pay for the new engine, which I think is an utmost priority, and definitely support that. Getting the new engine, you know, my concern is just selling now for a vehicle. I get it that we don't use it very often, but it's paid for, and what we're getting back for it, I don't think, prudent-wise, down the road, that it's going to pay for itself. Because when we do have to pay for a new vehicle, we don't know what the expenses are going to be. Each year we see the expenses go up more and more with inflation. So that's just my concern with selling 142 at this point, where it's not really directly going to affect the new fire engine, and 5-10 years from now, when we do need to buy a new vehicle, how much are we going to lose out, as opposed to just holding on to our 2020 that's going to last us quite some time. So that's my only concern.
And Mr. Mayor, just so the council's aware, the fire department's part of the general fund, and the purchase of the fire truck will flow through the general fund. It's all in major fund. It's not one of the dedicated funds like water and sewer are. The general fund covers the entire fire department as well.
Right, but that 100,000, we're taking 245 from ARPA, and then the first 67,000 for the payment. That's the down payment for it. So that excess money from the sale isn't actually going towards the purchase of the engine.
Ms. Hanson.
Thank you. So we are going to use ARPA funds, but we actually have in the budget that 67,000 already. So what, in a sense, what the funds will do if 142 sells is basically reimburse ARPA funds. So it will, in a sense, go towards the purchase of the fire truck.
Yeah, the ARPA funds, believe me, we have plenty of needs in the city, but that money will go back towards the ARPA funds that are going to allow for us to purchase this. So we are going to get that money back. We certainly have a lot of needs in the city, and I think they're more prudent than having a truck, 142, a mini pumper that, in my opinion, probably should have never been purchased. We should have went with an engine originally, and even now more so when we look at the price of new equipment. But if we have an engine, Chief, then your needs regarding fire suppression is probably at its optimum with a new truck.
Yes, sir. The need for the engine far out exceeds the need for the mini pumper. And I know when we were having our discussions early on, there was some consideration, well, maybe the council will not want to use ARPA funds, so maybe we have to wait to have the money from the sale of 142. And that was a consideration. So if we, Alderman Fleury, to ease your mind a little bit, if we outfit our Ford as our alternate response vehicle, that will last us quite some time.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions? Alderman Stevens.
back when we purchased this mini pumper, it should have been a full pumper, because it was desperately needed then. And we've had nothing but troubles with this thing since the mini pumper, it does not count for any of our insurance. Can't come up with it. The ISO ratings, it doesn't count for anything that a new fire truck does. I've talked to enough of the firemen and the fire officers. They hate that thing. They hate 142 with a passion. It was shoved down their necks by our former fire chief, and they didn't want it. There's only one person in the department that really wanted it, our former chief.
Alderman Stevens, with all due respect, I'd also, what the firefighters feared is that they were going to lose an engine, and that's why they didn't like it. So they were concerned that if that was put front line, and as the discussions that we had, that it would reduce our engines by 50%, and then the guys would be
Recently,
right.
officers and stuff, and they don't like that thing at all.
I agree with you, but the reason being is because they don't like it as an engine, because the concern is that, and what some of you may have thought, well, hey, that's going to be a primary suppression vehicle. That's like a fire engine, and that unfortunately wasn't the case. And so, I mean, everything you said is 100% true. The ISO, the mini pumper's not a NFPA rated engine pumper. So when ISO calculates your score, your fire suppression rating, which does affect insurance rates, say that was the primary response vehicle out of that station would actually not be counted as a firehouse according to ISO because of that. So that is true, and those are some of the concerns the guys had, and so I'm just trying to soften your words a little, sir, and maybe I shouldn't do that, but I apologize.
I think when we initially started out on this exercise regarding what was going to be the next piece of equipment that should have been purchased at the time that the mini pumper was purchased, there were 2018 maintenance records that went back on the engine that we're going to replace here, hopefully replace. But those maintenance receipts went back to 2018, which indicated that truck had probably reached its the question was that truck needing to be replaced? So that question was in front of the council. It was on my desk whenever I come into office, and it had been on there prior to that. Instead, the purchase was made with 142, and now that we find ourselves in a spot where we have to be able to finance, we have to be able to afford this, I would ask the council to act prudently. Believe me, tough times are coming. The chief had indicated about the price of fuel, the price of, still we have outstanding contracts. We have labor contracts that are outstanding. Those have not been solved yet. So the council is going to have a full plate when it comes to how much money is hopefully we're going to be able to save. And I would ask that we do it here tonight based upon our needs, not our wants. So, Alderman Porter?
Well, I'm going to tell you that I'm still having some problems selling a piece of safety equipment. I feel that if this mini pumper saves one life, it's worth keeping. But and the only reason it's not utilized, of course, is because we're not in a 10-man crew the way it sounds, which I would hope that someday we can do that, even if we have to hire part-time. But and not to mention that we're going to be losing money selling it so soon after we purchased it. But I guess, and I hate to put Shannon on the spot here, but I guess what I'd like to ask is, we're talking about around $200,000. Is there any other thing that we can cut a corner on or do something to make that $200,000?
Well, first of all, I think when we look at the price of the truck, pumper truck, the new engine, we look at an inflated price of everything, used equipment, new equipment, everything is up, to assume that we may only get 200,000, I have no idea if that's going to be accurate or not. If you look at inflation, we may get as much or more than what we paid for it. But we're not going to know if we hang on to it. And the other thing is, if you have a piece of equipment that you don't use, and you've strapped the city's budget for things that we will need, I will guarantee you we're going to need things down at the wastewater treatment plant and what have you. But you know, as I said, I can see perhaps going back and purchasing down the road whenever you know, hopefully the economy changes around, turns around. The city has really not grown any from the last census. The city has maintained the same. I think maybe the numbers may have increased or decreased 100. I'm not sure which way, but it's been, we haven't had any growth. So to have another vehicle when we're going to go ahead and replace an engine that's long overdue, I think is prudent, and I think it is in the best interest of public safety. But to hang on to a vehicle we don't use, we may not use, we haven't used, and that you know, we have other needs. I just don't think that from a financial standpoint with the taxpayers' money, I don't think that's what we need to do right now. Chief?
Your Honor, I got one more consideration about 142 as you're making your decision, and why I do recommend that you guys sell that. Another large consideration is that one of my goals as fire chief is to make sure that my men are extremely proficient at the equipment that they use. And pulling those pre-connects and pulling those lines, we've got it down pat. We pull those, we know what those hoses as they are. We've been training on them our whole lives. The guys that have been doing the fire service for 20 plus years, that's the equipment that they've been using. They know it, they trust it. They know how those hose lines flake. They know when they're in a house fire where they can't see anything and they don't know what's inside. They know how that hose reacts. They know how to deploy it, and they can do it rather quickly. 142 is different. It's fast and it's wonderful, and departments have had success with it, like Middleton Fire. Middleton Fire uses those primarily and their engines as support, but they do it, they know it, they practice it. They've been doing it like 15 years that way. If we got a low-use vehicle like this, I do have a concern with being proficient at it, being proficient. And Clayton, to echo what you were saying, one of the biggest concerns the guys had is because it is a life safety issue. When you're pulling, that hose line is your ammunition that you're taking inside. And if you've ever washed a car with a rubber hose, it's light and easy, but have you ever tried to walk around a car with it? And what does it do? It gets caught on everything. So just like our standard hoses have hose line deployment techniques, the techniques that this vehicle uses are different. Is it possible for the guys to do it and learn it? Absolutely. It would take time. It's a whole nother branch of, if I put my training coordinator hat on, that you have to be proficient in, and it is different enough from traditional firefighting that would be a large hurdle for us. So the likelihood of me asking for an ultra-high pressure engine in the future is incredibly low, unless the NFPA standards change and ISO changes and all those things change. The next vehicle 15 years down the road that I'll be asking for is going to be an engine. So that is one consideration. When the Pyro UHP came out, they bought the company that supplied the ultra-high pressure pump. And so now when they were doing the service on it, when we had the freeze damage, the gentleman from that company from South America, and over there and in Europe, these types of pumps are used all the time for a long time as a support vehicle. And he did mention that the tactics that we were taught were extremely different than what he would recommend. And so I did get a quote from him, and he said it would be $3,500 for him to come out and train the 3 shifts on that. So that would be an additional cost. We were looking at like a ladder rack on that thing was about $4,600 to get a ladder on it. That would be a normal fire service ladder, so that would be an additional cost. So although I love that vehicle, I would recommend that you guys make a motion and authorize the sale of that vehicle. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, any comments? We have a motion and a second on the floor already regarding ordinance 588H, an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain personal property, fire department vehicle. That vehicle is a 2020 Ford 550XL with a VIN ending in 8923. All those in favor of the motion and second on the floor will answer aye. Any opposed, nay. When the clerk calls the roll, please.
Freeman.
Aye.
Mulhall.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Brereton.
No.
Flurry.
No.
Frank.
Aye.
7 in favor.
Motion pass. All right, and then we have item G under 10, ordinance 589H, first and second reading, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a new Pierce fire apparatus number 37967 and the loan through Byron Bank to finance the acquisition. I get a motion to that effect, please. Motion by Alderwoman Fleury, second by Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Prather, second by Alderman Stevens. Alderwoman Prather, second by Alderman Stevens. Any questions regarding that motion? Any question? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay.
Mulhall.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Brereton.
No.
Flurry.
Aye.
Frank.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
8 in favor.
Motion passed, thank you. And we have motions forwarded from Committee of the Whole, Building, Planning, and Zoning, and Public Works of June 13th, 2022. Motion of Public Works, Chairwoman Freeman.
Thank you, Your Honor. A, motion to approve the proposal from Standard Equipment Company to purchase a Warthog sewer nozzle and cutter to replace our existing unit in the amount of $4,550. This work will be paid for from sewer line item number 61-5-830-6020.
Okay, we have a motion out of committee. Is there any questions regarding that motion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion will answer aye. Any opposed, nay. When the clerk calls the roll, please.
Porter.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Brereton.
Aye.
Flurry.
Aye.
Frank.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Mulhall.
Aye.
9 in favor.
Okay. Continue, Chairwoman Freeman.
B, motion to approve the low bid from RNOW Incorporated for a Dinkmar curb runner leaf machine in the amount of $66,140. This equipment will be paid for from the Street Department Capital Fund number 41-5-752-8200.
Okay, we have a motion out of committee. Is there any questions regarding that motion? Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you. So Director Anderson, I didn't go back and look at my budget book. Did we capital budget for this?
Yes, $100,000.
Thank you.
Thanks for the savings, Brent.
And as you know, I have a long list of expenses we could cover with the balance, but fire department also has them too, so.
Thank you.
Council can decide, of course.
I understand. Yeah. Thank you. All right, any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor will answer aye. Any opposed, nay. When the clerk calls the roll, please.
Prather,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Flurry,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Mulhall,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
9 in favor.
Motion passed. Thank you. And that's all we have on the agenda. Could I get a motion to adjourn, please? Motion by Alderwoman Prather, second by Alderman Stevens. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everybody. For the record, we adjourned at 8:16 PM.